The more I'm watching of this wonderful Isekai, the more all I could say is like, just give me more of this. Just obviously don't have everything just be the good show of the season because then eventually it gets stale and boring. But you can't tell me with a straight face, coming off of that amazing twist of what the name of the show actually represents and how Sensei is the key to sending people back to their world and why it's not him that's no longer allowed, but rather the other worlders that are causing ruckuses. But then when you look at this episode, because here's the thing with this, title drops and big twists are usually like the second or third episode. So to actually have like 3 episodes of this show that was more or less just, bruh, that's pretty much the review in a nutshell, is like this man, I mean, on one hand, he doesn't let people who actually don't want to die themselves, but at the same time, he makes people drag him around. He doesn't even take a minute to say, hey, maybe we should slap some wheels on this bad boy so it's a little easier for you guys to drag my lazy ass. The fact that they completely shift the tone while letting the show still be slapstick, what the hell comedy, edge comedy of this man constantly wanting to die. Episode 5 comes in and really plays off the ending of last week, which is we now have a good idea of where the actual narrative wants to go. It's not simply just about a guy who, because really, up until episode 4, the plotline was this man wants to find his long-lost love so he can die. That was literally the story hook. Now what we have is that's his personal story hook. Now the long-term story is they completely pull the rug from under your feet. Here's 7 other worlders, they go killed the demon lord, but now they took over that and saying, hey, we're gonna build utopia. Now we have Sensei who needs to go probably send their bitch's ass right back home, while also introducing a new character Nier who completely shifts the dynamic of the party. But like, that's kind of what the show did between episodes 4 and 5. It completely shifts the dynamic after a few episodes of really funny, entertaining content. But this is the difference of an isekai that you're probably going to remember even if it was just the first 3 episodes just for being a very funny show. But you're not going to claim it to be one of the best things in terms of an isekai that you've seen this year. But between episodes 4 and 5, these are the types of shifts in momentum that do elevate a show into that greatness level. And if more shows did what this series did, there'd be a lot less forgotten isekais by the time the next season rolls around, I guarantee you. Now, of course, I do a full live reaction to all these wonderful episodes over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full and good thoughts, they're going to be over there exclusively. So it's no surprise I've been absolutely loving the show. I've been laughing my ass off this entire time. But they are doing some things that really have me excited. So they did introduce a new party member, Nier. And Nier's an interesting one because I thought they were just going to go like with the twist that he was also like another worlder or something. Just because like I knew we were getting swindled and he's like, oh, give me 40,000 and I'll bring a hero to you. And that being the idiot she is like, yes, please. Just the fact that the kid almost like, I felt like the skeleton almost ripped out of his body when he popped out of that coffin to say, I ain't dead yet, bro, but I wish I was pretty much, was fantastic. But it's nice because we do have 2 characters that are like very much targeting and wanting to bone the edgelord known as Sensei. So to add in a kind of teacher-student relationship, I think is really kind of refreshing because this show clearly, while there's a lot of characters who maybe are a little too infatuated with our boy than I think justifiable, you know what? Sometimes people like the wrong people, what can I say? I like the fact that we have this kid who very clearly has been alone for a long time and now has officially joined up with us. And that simple moment, I think it was after the credits if I'm not mistaken, but when they're dragging him, right? So the 2 girls are clearly still dragging the coffin because that's what happens. And he just casually makes a remark about, boy, I just wish I could die. And he has the most genuine reaction of like, he doesn't, this is really bad, like, oh my god, he's so depressed. And like, yeah, so about the weather, that's a normal reaction given his BS, but the disconnect of him being like, my sensei, the man who's probably going to teach me some things or give me a family, like, it's just, I love that. And I love how between episode 4, the title drop, which shifts our, like, oh, Sensei's actually way more useful than we first thought. Episode 5 comes swinging, says, hey, we're going to completely give you an actual story hook and how that relates to our MC, even if he doesn't realize it, while also shifting up the party dynamic so it's not just 2 girls fighting over a guy who wants to jump off a bridge at every possible moment. Fantastic subversions of expectations, and just redirects the show in a much more interesting way while still letting comedy remain just as consistent. And what I mean is, look at the very end. So they end up going to our girl's like homeland and immediately get arrested. And the fact that, you know, you go from this like very simple like, oh my god, he wants to off himself and there's so like disconnect, there's horrible people, to then that face of like realizing maybe I shouldn't have tagged along after all. The comedy's still gonna remain just as consistent, even if the direction of the character pairings are a little shaken up now, and now we have an actual long-term plot. But it's absolutely fantastic. This show, I'm gonna say it, it's 10 out of 10 right now. I like the look of it. I like the vibe of it. I like the VAs, the characters, the comedy, and the more serious stuff. This is a perfect isekai for me, and is truly one of the most unique of the year so far. And it's actually pretty impressive to say that, given that we're 3/4 of the way through the year pretty much at this point. And there's been some bangers of isekai, like let's be 100%. There's always the generic ones, but there's been some bangers. But this one is just, it takes the cake in a lot of ways. And honestly, it's impressive that the show is actually getting better while still having me laugh at the absurdity. Like the fact that they don't even like make it a joke, but when you think about certain things, you can end up continuously laughing about stuff because of how funny it is. Annette basically casually quitting her job at the temple without realizing it, and then them having to rush to find a replacement, and then we get to see who the replacement is in this episode, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, could you imagine if that personality was the one who had to deal with Sensei? And then you consider the fact that everyone they summon as an otherworlder just turns out to be a piece of shit or lazy or horrible. This poor girl just got thrown into the pits of hell without realizing it, and it all stems from our girl just chasing after some dick because she thinks he's the hottest stud in town. And it's like, that type of stuff kills me the longer it goes on, but I love the fact that we actually got some world building, some political building with like the different leaders of different sections of the world with different temples, and the idea that they're pretty much like, damn, we gotta stop summoning these other worlders, which it makes sense why they did initially, because they needed to defeat like the demon lord, and they did that. But now it's like, what do we do? And here's this magical, amazing thing like, oh my god, the proper hero's here, he can send them back home. And boy, when they realize he just pops acid and poison, and I'm pretty sure he'd probably swallow broken glass like the Grinch who stole Christmas just to see if it would do something. Their faces are gonna say it all. Just want to add this little bit. I didn't think of this, but I am seeing a decent amount of people say that one of the 7 heroes looks like the girl Sensei is looking for. So either that's gonna be a red herring, or he's gonna find her sooner rather than later, which does honestly make sense. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode, though. I legitimately think this was one of the best episodes, and I think between 4 and 5, the way they shifted everything, more isekai need to just unexpectedly shift the formation of the show, but allow it to still remain to be what you kind of enjoyed up to that point, which is what exactly it just happened here. I'm so excited for more, but thoughts down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell. Like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Colton Nutter, James Reinhardt, Oshman Roshor, Carlos Henquick, Kyle Williams 12, Abraham Velquitz, and we also have Duncan Goodwin. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.